Hello and welcome to anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergog, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why the Great Tomb of Nazarick, on its height of its power and prestige, seemingly randomly stopped recruiting new members. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my patrons for supporting this channel, as well as a thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. The Great Tomb of Nazarick was a mighty military force in Yggdrasil Online. It was one of the most feared and at times most hated guilds in the entire online world, earning its reputation as a relentless player-killer guild through hard-fought battles, deception, and a lot of ambushes. And although it never claimed the top rank, it was always among the top 100 most powerful guilds of all time. And from a strong defensive position, it could launch devastating offensives. For instance, it was the only guild capable of conquering and controlling all the resource zones and mines necessary for crafting a caloric stone, a world-class item that could also serve as the core of a golem. It even took the use of a world item to expel the guild from the Yggdrasil Online world where those mines were located. Yet even that did not permanently sever Ainz Ooal Gown's influence over these resources. From the shadows, guild members stirred conflicts among the other players, ensuring no single player or faction could monopolize all of the mines required to craft yet another caloric stone. And also the sheer amount of rare and precious materials, such as heavenly uranium required for crafting these items, also made one question whether it was even worth the effort. Nevertheless, the guild also internally considered leaking the idea that such a world item could be forged outside to the public, and this was considered to be a strategic move to further escalate any conflict if it ever seemed that one player or one faction was about to gain control over all of these items and mines. And the loss of such a significant territory, however, was enough to enrage the NPCs in Volume 4 of Overlord to the point that Ainz Ooal Gown had to calm everybody down. Because even in another world, the sons and daughters of the players of Nazarick were unwilling to give up this region without a fight. And this beautifully illustrates how tenacious and fierce this guild could be. Whether it was Benito Mo's PvP guide as Nazarick's strategist, Shelty and Ainz intercepting enemy scouting parties before they could even set a foot in Nazarick, the many traps, and the confusing teleportation network, or the overwhelming power of the 8th floor. Nazarick excelled at leveraging a formidable defense, something essential for a guild as notorious as theirs to survive, in order to, from their strong defensive position, launch massive offensives. And thanks to the immense wealth and the library of Ashurbanipal, they could summon entire armies in minutes by sacrificing large quantities of gold. So Nazarick could easily switch to the offensive. Beyond the conflict over the mines, they were also experienced in handling world items, as Nazarick itself housed a total of 11 of them, deep within its treasury vault, guarded by Ainz Ooal Gown's own personal NPC, Pandora's Actor. And Ainz has once said that world items are best used to counter other world items, and this alone is a significant statement, as it implies that his guild has already used world items several times and learned through experience that they are most effective defensively, used after the opponent has played their trump card already. And this strategy also mirrors standard PvP matches, where the side that first uses super tier magic, or rather that first has to use super tier magic in order to not lose, usually still ends up losing. And similarly, in a battle of world items, the side that is forced to use their world-class items first often appears to be at a disadvantage and more likely to lose. And this was also the first reason why the 41 players of Ainz Ooal Gown remained only 41 players, because even without a full force of players, they were exceptionally formidable and could effortlessly compensate for a numerical disadvantage with NPCs and summoned mercenary NPCs, such as the Hanzos or the 8-edged assassins. And the guild, even when only Ainz Ooal Gown was left, had immense financial resources and a vast stockpile of summoning items for mercenary NPCs, stored in its library. In addition to all of this, there were the regular NPCs, because although Ainz Ooal Gown lacked 59 players to reach the full capacity of 100 members, the guild with its floor guardians and their escorts, for example Cocytus with his Frost Virgins or Demiurge with his Overlord, was also capable of launching major offensives and counter-offensives. And moreover, they often lured other players into traps or pretended to retreat. After gauging the strength of their opponent in the initial fight and feeding them a lot of false information, they would then easily win any second round, because now they could tailor their equipment to perfectly counter their specific build, their items, and the way that they fight. And this was a strategy Ainz Ooal Gown also employed frequently. For instance, this was how Ainz Ooal Gown eliminated the Dragonlord Cure Elim Los Malvar in the Bonus Eveline novel, and all of this was essentially just the vanguard, as the main force of the Grey Tomb resided on the 8th floor, a location we have yet to see in either of the novels or the anime. And the second reason, which I briefly touched upon in my previous videos, discussing why most of the NPCs of the Grey Tomb were not exactly favorable in regards to any outsiders, to say the absolute least, is related to the guild's relationship with other players. First, heteromorphic players were not well liked in Yggdrasil Online, and many quests for human and demi-human players explicitly required defeating heteromorphic players as a condition for completing a class change or for unlocking entirely new classes. Secondly, Touch Me initially led the predecessor organization of Ainz Ooal Gown, Nine's Own Goal, and Touch Me was very opinionated. And after a severe falling out with one of the members of Nine's Own Goal, the group experienced a lot of internal conflict, which again led to the departure of one of the players. However, after the guild was established, after Nazarick was built, after Ainz Ooal Gown became the guild master, and the internal tensions were therefore significantly decreased, success began to accumulate, because word spread that Touch Me, one of only 9 world champions in the entire game, and one of the strongest players in the entirety of Yggdrasil, was a member, and this attracted many new potential members who wanted to join the guild. And over time the guild grew to 41 players. However, the longer they played, the more strategies and meta strategies developed, and the PvP aspect of the game became increasingly treacherous and sophisticated in its deceptions. And this ultimately led to one of the guild's world-class items being stolen. One of the 200 rarest items in the entire game. And this naturally led to the guild to become extremely distrustful of any new outsiders, since joining required the unanimous approval of all 41 members, which again is a significant challenge in and of itself. Very few new players could become members just based on that. Additionally, having a job was a requirement for joining, and unlike in many other guilds where discussing real life, from which players were often trying to escape, was frowned upon, in Ainz Ooal Gown members frequently talked about their jobs and the myriad problems associated with them, like stress, workload, and everything else that came with it. And fun fact, because all of the players had jobs, they could afford to spend considerable amounts of money on the game. For example, Ainz Ooal Gown, as in the player, as in manga, was known to spend about 1/3 of his income in the game every single month. However, this excellent equipment and this excellent founding source also roused very much envy in many. And many of the new applicants weren't genuinely interested in the guild itself. Instead, these new players sought to exploit the guild by joining it, to receive good items, gain strength, acquire knowledge about strategies and tactics on how to fight PvP, and get help with their character builds and ability selection. And this selfish attitude was especially unwelcome in Nazarick, after the theft of a world-class item, because it demonstrated a desire to exploit the guild rather than to contribute to it. And given the enormous effort and dedication put into building such a detailed and long-lasting guild over more than a decade, the members were understandably protective of it. and in Volume 7, Ainz's disdain for intruders who viewed Nazarick as nothing more than a loot box was very, very evident in his very much agitated comments, to say the absolute least. In other words, selfishness was something Ainz and the other guild members deeply despised and refused to tolerate. And the third condition also created quite the challenge even for those players who could potentially become members otherwise, because all members of Nazarick had to be heteromorphic players. So while some NPCs were not heteromorphs in nature, for example Ainz Ooal Gown was the only human in the Great Tomb of Nazarick, though her immortality and immense power might place her outside of this classification in the minds of, for example, Demiurge, and others like Aura and Mare were dark elves, due to these restrictive rules. Due to the experience of being hunted down for quests and being seen as basically vile creatures, the members of Ainz Ooal Gown were very, very adamant about this last rule, that only heteromorphic players like they themselves were allowed to enter. So promising potential members like Yamaiko's younger sister couldn't join Nazarick, because her elven avatar disqualified her. And even though she had a strong bond of trust with Yamaiko, an existing member, she could not join because of this. Though she remained a welcome guest in the Great Tomb of Nazarick. And because of all of these factors, the number of guild members remained at 41, far, far below the theoretically maximum of 100. However, this small number, along with the closer relationship among guild members, also had its advantages. The guild was more tightly connected and coordinated than others, because being a small group allowed them to make decisions and to act upon them much, much faster. In other words, the smaller size had its benefits, or to quote Robert Baratheon, what is stronger, 5 fingers or a single fist? And with that said, now it's your turn. What are your opinion about the recruitment stop and the reasons for all of this? Let me know it down in the comment section. And with that said, please check out my German channel, my fantasy channel, and if you don't want to listen to my voice or accent, but are still interested in the things I have to say, I have made an AI channel, narrated by almost a woman, where I use AI voiceovers for my videos. And the channels are all linked down in the video description. Also, please check out my Patreon if you want to support me beyond just leaving a like or sub. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel, and special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Girl Yee, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon S, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feralchivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Lothrazer, Merowek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gaspar, Paddy Pentum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, Ernst Sonnegon, Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.